13 participants, where they are.
Got Heather's on. You mean the applicant you're talking about, Zoran?
No, I see participants in Zoom. Yeah, I guess applicants. Okay. Well, only one applicant, a couple applicants.
Heather is there.
Barry should be here. I know he was intending on it, so I can
And
text him.
Barry will be able to be here. Don't get overexcited, Zorian.
Okay, so
I see 13.
we're live on YouTube now. I'm gonna hit record.
Okay. And now, live from Kerhonkson, it is. See, they tell you now.
Goodness, that is nice. I'm looking forward to when we can meet. Oh, I have a phone call from Barry. Hey, Barry, I'm online. Well, I'm on the meeting that everybody else is on. Okay, I'm going to mute myself so they don't need to hear me say what we need to do to get you.
All right, we'll do the roll call and Heather will get Barry on. All right, guys. Chris, are you on there?
I'm here.
Your name. Beautiful. All right. Kai will do the call to order and we will, one day we'll actually see a nice big flag all in person. I pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America.
United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. There we go. Roll call, please.
Chair Lindstrom,
I am here.
Mr. Zarowski,
Here.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Jones,
Yeah, he's not going to be here. He left me a note. He's seeing his son out in Nebraska.
okay, Mr. Pinsky,
Here.
and Miss Maloney,
Here.
and Mr. Grasso.
Here.
Okay.
All right. So we have only one thing on the agenda. So it is once again Veritas Villas, and we are on PPL response number 3 that everybody got. I don't know if you had a chance to read, and also the May 18th response from Mittenbach and Eggers from Barry. And we've made a bunch of progress. And before we sort of get into, I think we can go pretty quickly because a lot of stuff was either no response required, something has been addressed. We're sort of down to some key areas. One is, doesn't really need to be discussed tonight. They were incomplete responses, but they will be part of the conditions. And so we can basically just put that in the condition and address it. Something such as putting the deed restrictions onto the plan and onto the deed. We need maybe to re-review before the next meeting to make sure that we think everything that was presented by Mr. Collins is everything we need on the conservation easement. We don't really need to go over it now. So you have things that will just become part of the final conditions. The things I think that are sort of open, we still have sightline drive issues, some of which tends to be Greek to me. And then we also have some sort of site disturbance grading issues that are big ones that tend to be out. As you saw, we won a small Pyrrhic victory and had, after the suggestion of, was it Sam and Patrick, I think, that were sort of the lead on this, to try and combine 2 driveways so we have less curb cuts, because one of the problems here is an infinite number of curb cuts for these houses that are up close to the road. So that was switched. And then I'm thinking that we could probably advance this as it is, or maybe Barry and Heather could get a couple tweaks in and advance it to circulating for lead agency for seeker, that we have pretty much enough to get to that. So that's sort of, and we need more escrow. At setting that up while Heather was waiting to get Barry online.
Yeah, I'm online now.
Okay, perfect.
And I was hoping too, we could schedule a public hearing on this.
Let's go through this and see where we are. It might be that it
Yeah,
can get
the only
scheduled.
problem is
Go ahead.
how many other agents do we have? Do we have to?
Yes, we have to circulate, so we sort
It's
of.
just,
Okay.
it's just the health department,
I would like to circulate to the DEC also. We have a
but they're
list.
not, but we have not identified a permit we need from them. I have no problem with that, but I just want to point out, there's no identified permit we need from them.
Right. So we do need the health department though.
Yes.
And I already have health department approval.
Okay. But if they have to be on seeker, we'll talk about seeker after.
After we get through everything else.
Determine if it has to be coordinated or if it can be uncoordinated. But we have to do seeker before we schedule a public hearing, Barry. So if we're
Okay.
gonna need to do a coordinated review, we're gonna have to wait to hear back from the health department or not hear back from the health department.
I'm sure I could get a letter from the health department saying
All right.
they don't want to be
So,
lead
but we don't,
agency.
let's, Barry, before we rush to that, whether it is a public hearing scheduled contiguous with doing seeker beforehand, or it is a seeker with public hearing the next month, let's skip through, first of all, what's been done on the world famous matrix. We should like cut to the video. Barry, you guys answered. We made an awful lot of progress. Can everybody see that? I can make it a little bit bigger. Yes, no,
I have the paper, so that's what I'm gonna be going on.
exactly. So I added some answers. sort
I
of-
see that. Okay, that's great. That I need to see.
Yeah, so, and so I tried to do that because we didn't have all of the response number 3, so do with the paper. Everybody in the planning board, can you see that enough? Hello? Nothing? 0? It's
Yes,
really
we can
hard.
see it.
Yeah, it's small though. It's
Let me see if I can go.
very tiny.
At some point you like zoom off the,
Is there any way to not see the 2 columns on the, yeah, there we go.
yeah, that's what I'm exactly. I don't want to like blow it up to be too. How's that at 200%? Is that more visible?
So if everyone goes to their view options
fine.
at the top of the
Yeah.
screen, you can select original size in the zoom ratio, and that will also make it bigger, but it will crop it a bit. But then you
Exactly.
can,
So
but
I'll
then you
keep it-
can mouse it yourself left and right. Just a pro tip.
Exactly. So you can make your
Individual mousing.
individual ones bigger.
Mhm.
So and we also have, I don't know if anybody, I printed them out also if you need to refer to them, CPLs, Liz and Greg's response from May 26th, and Barry and Heather's response from May 13th. So the good news is, look at this. Okay, okay, okay. We have small minor thing here. So we look at the significant trees to be taken down. Metabach and Eggers did go through and show the basic comment from CPL here is just make the legend, correct me, and when I'm wrong here, Liz, at interpreting, just jump in, please, Liz or Greg, is to show not just, it shows the trees perfectly, but they're ones that are saved, and it just, the legend just has the ones that are taken away. The legend should include all the ones that are also being saved. That's really a small true up detail. We also discussed how the conservation easement boundary should be monumented. So people know where the conservation easement is or is not. So Metabach and Eggers had agreed to put 48-inch witness posts along with rods along the edge on the interior. And these should be some sort of marking, I believe, and Zorian mentioned this to me also, around the outside. It not necessarily witness posts and iron rods, but maybe flagging the trees, blazing the trees, putting some signs up. So the neighbors also know that, hey, this is private property, even though everybody should know that. Nobody tends to, a lot of people don't respect it, but that way, you know, this is conservation area from the exterior.
I might point out, Maren, too, that the conservation line is very close to a very steep slope. You know, so there's like a physical terrain change right there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally fine. I mean, you already said you're gonna put in the witness post, put in the rods, and then mark it on the, it's on the outside that goes like, it hits Warishes and it hits the Courtrights and it hits Hartilius, I think. That probably something, I believe, and the rest of the board can have their opinion on this. This is something that Zorian brought up. You know, posting on the trees or blazing on the trees, this is a conservation area.
As opposed to just the general posted no trespassing signs so that we see on property line. boundaries?
Exactly, like maybe if there's one of those that you can roll out at Lowe's that says no trespassing and conservation, or just put those up on the outside
Okay.
and mark it, you know, as you mark, you have to mark the owner and conservation area on the, facing the outside.
Okay. So
nothing, you don't need to run around doing something major on the outside, but probably would be good just that it's noted. And then on the, I don't know what everybody else on the board thinks, on the witness post, probably some kind of signage that says what it is, just not a post. You know, conservation area beyond this point. We can, this is another thing we don't need to decide right now. I'm just sort of bringing this up. If you just put a post up, somebody goes and buys this, they have no bloody idea why there's a post sitting there in the middle of their.
Maureen, are you going to email your table?
Yeah.
Okay.
To everybody afterward, yes.
Awesome.
This was, it didn't get emailed to everybody because it was a little just under the wire when I
Yeah,
was reading everything.
everything was today. Sorry.
So
Well.
does anybody, this was something that was outstanding. Anybody else on the board have a comment here?
You mean on that particular item or on different?
On this item, just
either
on this
item?
item.
Okay. No, not me.
Okay, so we're vaguely in agreement there. Then when we went through, you know, when we were present at the site visit, comments sufficiently addressed. We had concerns about the number of cuts and fills and lots, etc. So, and the earthwork and how big the houses would be and small they'd be and etc. I think really this just gets eventually addressed by conditioning. I don't know if Greg or Liz have a, you know, there's nothing to, if we say, hey, you know what, everything's been totally sufficiently beautifully addressed by, then we don't do anything. Or if we say, we don't like this being addressed, we condition something.
I think, you know, Greg and I tried to word the comment to, you know, to acknowledge, you know, these are individual lots. And when they come in for lot development, the cuts and fills could change a little bit.
Exactly.
So
the only,
I don't think there's anything else to be done.
there's nothing exactly. It's pretty much, as you're totally right, pretty much addressed. The only thing to look at the lots when we get to the final public hearing closed, writing up a decision, seeing where we need to try to condition something if we have concerns left. Any on this comment? Anybody else on the board?
I like that idea of the conditions. That's a good idea.
Okay. Now we're on, this starts to get well out of my area of expertise. So this is where Barry and Heather, you might want to pipe up is, so we have these, you know, obviously concerns about the driveways, the slopes of the driveways, either going down after you got off the road or going up to the house. And so these are more specific questions, and these are from the new comments that I know, Heather, you and Barry didn't have much of a chance because everything's getting we're queuing a lot here, and I apologize for that. That things go to Brianna's mail, and they go to Mike's mail, and then they end up in my mail, then I gotta send them to Liz's mail, and next thing you know, a week has gone by. But some
I
of
do
this-
appreciate you making this happen. I just want that noted.
So some of this is like easy true ups, like you've got the new shared driveway, but on the sheet that shows the driveways, it's two separate driveways, so it just has to be obviously combined into one driveway, because they don't match anymore.
Well, we did that because we wanted to make sure that you were, which avenue you preferred.
Got it.
Considering we combined it, so do you like that before we go and do the additional?
I
I think to
personally like it.
summarize it,
How about everybody else?
I think we just need to clean up the details is what
Right.
you're basically saying.
Exactly. This is a lot of, it's right-of-way permitting for clearing. Okay, then we put in as a condition or whatever you need. You have to get a permit if you're going to clear from the highway department within the right-of-way, and then you take care of that. See what I'm
I
saying?
just want to chime in that I think that sharing of those two driveways is a great idea.
I agree. I mean, I like it. Does anybody else on the board have an opinion?
I think that was Sam's idea. He deserves the accolades for that.
All right. Big thumbs up, Sam.
I have a related question, process-wise. May I ask?
Of course.
Okay. Explain to me, please, how it's gonna work if one property is sold and another property is still under current ownership? How is it shared driveway? Who is gonna own that shared driveway? When they buy, there would be some kind of agreement right away between new owner and the current owner,
Driveway agreement.
something like
Yep,
that.
you'd have a shared driveway agreement, just like any normal shared driveway agreement. And the entrance would be put there, and then either the person subdividing it, if they wanted to just cut driveways to nowhere, I guess they could have that option. Or somebody buys lot one and the entrance is there and they do their side shared driveway. But from the moment when they hit the road, it is a shared driveway and they have a shared driveway agreement. And if nobody ever goes on the other side and there's never another driveway, they could null and void the shared driveway. Let's pretend another examples are in. Somebody builds the house to say, oh, you know what? I don't really want somebody next to me, and they buy the lot next to it, then they wouldn't need a shared driveway agreement anymore because there'd only be one house and they'd own the whole thing. But you'd start out with that, yes. Does that make sense?
Okay, all right. Kind of, it's okay. Not important now.
But yes, as Mark said, you would have, that's something that will need to be done. A shared driveway agreement when and if people are buying this, that would be one of the conditions of the subdivision for those two lots. I mean, they aren't terribly complex, a shared driveway agreement. It's not like
I
writing.
think we have a standard one somewhere. I think Mary Lou
Yep.
sent out a standard. at one
I
time.
would anticipate that they would, along with this, they will have a shared driveway agreement. And the developer owns both parts of the driveway until something is sold.
Exactly.
And then it's the developer and the new owner of whatever lot is sold. And then eventually another lot is sold and the new owner of that lot is subject to it. And I think you would have that shared driveway stay even if one person bought both lots, because they can always sell one of
Right.
them again later.
Right. That's a totally good point. Thank you, Marilla. Unless they did a lot line and it wasn't two lots anymore. So some of this stuff, and I'm segueing here. I'm doing a segue. We sort of started out with the idea at the beginning, if Greg and Liz spoke to Medenbach and Eggers, somebody from the planning board would also be on, because we were way at the beginning and not knowing what's going on. Now we're getting more into engineering details. So I want to see what the board would think if, because some of this stuff, sightline and vertical for all lots might as well be cerebral coation to me personally. I don't know for the rest of the board, that they should, some of these, as Barry said, these line items that are here, they should get together and see if it needs to be fixed, not fixed. So does everybody feel comfortable having Barry reach out to Greg and Liz directly, and they take care of some of the more engineering details?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do I have one more person to be, or two more persons? All right.
Yep,
That's
good idea.
informal poll quorum that we have there. So on,
As long we can see in the somewhere documented, so.
no, this will
I
come,
mean,
Liz
in-
will,
in
I
the
mean,
track,
I don't want to, Zoran, I don't want to speak for Liz, but
If there is out, yeah, it's fine.
is they would get together and then that would be part of their comments that they would come back with and call it comment number 4. We agreed on this or we
Right.
disagreed on it, and then we would have the ultimate quote unquote say. But like you pointed out, Zorian, for sheet 6, driveway site triangle details shouldn't be 100 feet. There should be 250 feet of the distance to be completed. And then there was a debate between Barry or Mendenbach, Eggers, and CPL on, they can all figure out what the calculations are because we don't add any value here because we don't know it. So we'll go in circles right now. Let them figure it out and come back with, we figured this out. Does that make sense? But they'll come back to us, yes, Zoran, with the CPL will write something up and say, we had this discussion, here's what happened.
Yeah,
That
makes
good?
sense, thank you.
So that's the exact same thing. One of the issues is like, I always think it's like starting a BMX race or something. You got to have a flat thing to get your bike off to start the race. So we're having issues with you have a flat spot and how big the flat spot should be, because this is either when you come down your driveway that you don't run into Cherrytown, or when you're trying to get out of your driveway that you just roll back because it's icy into your house. So these guys need to work on the grading as a stationing area. I'd give that to the experts to figure out how to do that and then come back with the decision, because I don't know. They added, so on this incomplete response, no grade steeper than 10% are shown. While the applicant's engineer does not agree that it is necessary to pave driveways with 10% grade, good engineering practice would dictate this be required for long-term maintenance of the surface. Also to prevent gravel spillage onto the paved town roadway. This should be discussed with the planning board. So we have paved aprons on all of the driveways. I think this is another issue that we could move this to seeker, move this to public hearing, see what the public has to say, et cetera. And then we could make it a condition of approval that they all have to be paved, that certain ones have to be paved, or none have to be paved, and an apron is fine. But I don't think we're at the place right now to, anybody have any opinions?
Yeah, I'd like to just like maybe comment on that a little bit. Shouldn't
Sure.
that be up to the homeowner, whether they want to pay for a paved driveway or not? I mean, they're the one maintaining it. And then if you did require it on this subdivision, you know, you'd have to require it on all subdivisions. You know,
Well, we wouldn't.
why would you single this one out?
Mary Lou, you pipe in here.
Yeah, it's a matter of the grading.
Right.
Our engineer is recommending that because the grade is a little bit steeper, that it should be paved.
Well,
So
let me-
it may be that the engineer will recommend that for all subdivisions that have that kind of grade.
Well, Mary Lou, can I just
Grading-
interject?
If
Just
if
a-
it weren't a grading issue, I don't think we'd care.
Exactly.
But
It's really-
can I just point out, it's very specific in your code that driveways over 10% should be paved. And these driveways are all 10% or less. So the code
But-
already spells out when it should be paved and when not to be paved.
But you're doing an enormous amount of cutting and grading to get to 10%.
Well, that's a matter of an opinion. I don't think the grading on these are much different than most driveways being built.
So there's
I
no
think-
point in arguing right now because we're not there yet, Barry, okay?
And Barry, I'll look at that provision. I've been kind of leaving that to planning, but if that is the case, if it says 10% or less does not need pavement, that's our law.
Right, and it
I
doesn't say that. It basically is more on what you're supposed, on your land altering within, if you're over 25%, nothing should be done over 25% except for a small part of a driveway that you cannot get around. I'm paraphrasing poorly. Then
I think the point is also the length of the 10%.
exactly. It's very long, 10%, and
That's all.
the honesty part here also is, Barry, it's no, every driveway, you could have a very long flat driveway, and then we'd say you need pull-offs because fire has to get there and they have to get back and forth. So we typically ask that. You have a couple of these driveways that are very long with the grade, and you're not going to get an ambulance up there. And this has happened before in this town and happened in other places. So it's up to the planning board then to decide, do you want to say to somebody, you're right, you're the owner, but if you have a heart attack up there, your ambulance is not getting there. They're not four-wheel drive and they can't get up a long stone driveway in the winter.
I am
And
sure
you can't, so
all of these driveways can be accessed with emergency vehicles.
we don't know.
Well, I'm telling you, as a licensed engineer, who's been doing this for a long time, these are designed and they're very accessible to emergency vehicles. An ambulance will easily get up there.
All right, so why don't we'll
I'll look at the provisions and
Mary Lou will look at the provisions. We don't have anything specific on paving that I know of. It's more on your treatment of different grades.
do you
So
have
Mary,
a code provision that you can just reference for me, Barry, to save me the time?
I think it's right in the memo.
Yeah, it might be in the memo.
I think, yeah, Greg kind of goes over some of the things he's pointing to. Hang on. Let's see.
But the fire access is in the state building code. It's not in our town code.
Well, that's fire apparatus access, yes. But she's just talking about paving the driveway.
I guess the other discussion that Greg and I
No.
had was the practicality of, other matters such as a, propane truck getting up there. Sometimes they'll refuse to come up wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
They'll refuse to come up our driveway and it's not even 5%.
Yep.
And it's a dirt driveway, but it's got a curve in it. So it's just a mixture of, maybe convenience doesn't matter, but I guess, fuel is kind of important. It's that kind of stuff. So that's just one aspect.
so you are right, Barry. If somebody wants to, but once again, so this, I don't think we need to, it's just to put the seed in the head of everybody on the board, because the number one thing we do is the health, safety, and welfare. And we're supposed to subdivide into buildable, safe lots. So maybe leaning on the side on some of these of paving where the access is easier and more guaranteed for all of these vehicles that need to provide the health, safety, and welfare of a person is a better idea. Or maybe no, and they can, but I want everybody on the board to be thinking about this. There's no decision right now. Nobody's forcing it right now, Barry. It's just something that I think should be thought of because of exactly what Mary Lou said, because of these are all it's just very slopey, steep land. So it's just, let's everybody keep that in their head, because at some point, a couple months from now or 3 months from now, we're going to have to all have a little vote and say, yep, we're good with just paving the apron, or we want lot number A and B to also have a driveway.
And Mary Lou, in the middle of page 3, when Greg crafted this comment,
Yep.
he
Yeah, I
wrote,
found that.
you found that, and it says it doesn't specifically apply. So that's acknowledged. So-
Okay.
So that was more
For reference, everybody, 10%, it's roughly 6 degrees.
and to get to that 10%, there's going to be a lot of land disturbance on a couple of the lot. I don't know anything. You're right, but they are not right now. There's a piece of lot of number 6 that's over 25%. So they're allowed to flatten out a piece of that by our code. A minimal disturbance for a driveway is totally allowed, but you're taking land that is above 25% and filling and sloping, et cetera, to get a 10% or under. And I think part of lot 1 has the same problem also. So it isn't like we're looking at a piece of land that's got the 10% grade, like you said, Zoran, the 6%, the 6-degree slope. We're creating from land that has more slopes and more elevation changes, a nice 10% driveway. So it's a
And
bit of an engineering work.
Barry and his team have clearly shown the grading for those, you know, those driveways
Yep.
and limits of disturbance. So the plans are quite detailed.
So we've made humongous successes, progress, as I said. It's just so everybody sort of knows that it isn't as if you're like, oh, I'm looking at this big field and the field goes up 10%. I'm just going to put some gravel down and we go straight. You have to turn because you can't go straight up. They are a bit torturous, the driveway. So the question on that is, because of the work that's being done for these driveways, is everybody cool with just an apron? Or will some of them that take more of the working, we would make as a condition of approval that they need to be paved, but it doesn't have to be made as a decision now. It's something we will have to decide on, just like signage and monumenting for the conservation easement, and just like deciding on, is everything that Mr. Collins gave us sufficient for the deed restrictions and plan restrictions that he suggested for the conservation easement. I don't know if everybody remembers reading that or read it. I think it's pretty thorough and it pretty much covers everything. Maybe somebody will see one other thing they want added or not added, but that should be something that is reviewed also before we get to the, because we're narrowing the funnel here. And so the remaining things like this need to be reviewed. So if we go down to 5A, and what 5A said on, this is on the most recent response. Zoran had the question, isn't this already shown on the related sheet? Site distance line should be shown in vertical in both directions for all driveways, see above. And then my comment there you can see is, do the stuff coordinated with Greg. That's very eloquent.
We will do the stuff.
So you want to do the, exactly.
Okay.
Addressed. We just covered this ad nauseum, that everything is fine with the driveway surfaces unless we required paving for more of them, then you'd have to redo the legend that shows the surfaces. We're okay now on the lot line revision, except I think this is what you were saying also, Zorian and Liz, the numbers are wrong in the table. So if you look at the
Easy fix.
it's an easy fix. So if you go to, is this it? This might be too small also for everybody to see, but you can see the lot line adjustment, lands of FASO or FASO, however you say it, starts at 1.58 and then go down to 1.41. You just need to switch the numbers. Is that what you were talking about on that element, Liz?
I kind of, you know, did a bunch of comments that were a little instructive. It was more for whoever's revising the plan to,
Right, and
hey,
then
take
the
a
other
look at
stuff
this.
that you spoke of, we do have the entirety of the tax parcel on now. We agreed that the existing features, we wouldn't make them go in and survey somebody else's land and show the house and such, so that's okay.
And some
this
of the
is-
comments have to do with making sure that we have the property owner's information as, like, I guess, you know, lot line division, kind of a co-applicant sort of for that.
And we
aspect.
have on the lot line application they sent in, we have both people's information
Okay.
on that. So we're good on this basically, except for the goof on the numbers.
I have a comment about the table.
Yeah.
One more comment when it's showing, just 1 second. Maximum lot coverage, it's showing more than 2 degrees. Should it be 2%?
No, it should have been
Should it
less than.
be-
I apologize. That's my mistake.
Yeah, should be less than 4.
It's definitely less than 30. It might have been between
Right,
2 and
right,
3,
right.
you know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's also sort of like a typo.
So on that one, Liz had that in a couple. There's a bunch of stuff that I think before whether we are coordinated or uncoordinated, because even if we're uncoordinated, it's going to go to people for comment. There's a bunch of like final draft going over and making sure all the numbers true up. Liz had a lot of things she caught where you have different sheets that have different lot sizes. So we got to make sure the whole big lot as it is now, everything adds up to the same number and everything's transferred in the same way, because some stuff is off.
I just want to point out, a lot of that is rounding errors because we didn't do the remaining lands. So plus or minus 100th of an acre is kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme. So I apologize if.
That's okay. That's okay. Some of it, we've done so many, you change just to double check, like lot 5, what is it? 5 and 6. You added, the size changed a little bit because you moved the lot line to the stone wall, and then just like double check that everything is the new last iteration. It's that, like, before you send in your final essay, give it one more look over. This one is one that keeps coming up is, and I'm sort of summarizing this in other ones, is like land disturbance and grading plan. Grosso modo in various places. There's no land disturbance for they cut a lawn. I realize maybe they do or maybe they don't. You can't guarantee it. We can condition. I don't think as a shall, but as a highly recommended, because it'll make it, I mean, the idea here, Liz and Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, is so you put the houses up on the side, which is very slopey. If you're driving outbound from 209, you're on the right-hand side, and you have your disturbance calculated, and then somebody decides to take every tree down and make it an enormous lawn. Then all of a sudden, we have a very different grading, runoff, et cetera situation.
Happens every day.
Can I just point out, the way to really handle that is with the building permit. Each building permit needs to be issued with a soil erosion and sediment control plan and a grading plan. And certainly that could be a condition of the subdivision approval. And I think it would be that's how that's handled when you have a specific house and a specific builder who's going to do something. If somebody wants to go wild with grading, it would be stopped right there at the building department, or make sure he puts all the proper provisions in place.
And I agree with you, Barry, because that's why line 4 says conditioning. That we probably can address this with a couple of the lots are like lot 4 is pretty fine. You put the house there and the house is happy. And we can do that by what Barry just said, by saying as a condition of approval, if you're going for the building plan, you need to have all of this. Does everybody feel good with that? Not good?
I'm curious about it because I'm not sure, like, are you saying you're setting a specific clearing area on each lot, and then when they go to building permit, they have to stick to that, or?
No, they would have to. So the way we set up the plans, the details for soil erosion and sediment control, they're kind of like generic details. They're saying, hey, these are provisions. We've done this on lots of subdivisions, that when you build a house, you must comply with these regulations. In which case, they would submit a site plan with their building permit. We usually do that with
like a plot plan kind of thing.
It'd be a plot plan, and it would show all the provisions for that specific house as it was, proposed for a building permit. We do this all the time.
Right. No, I guess my question is, we're basing this on whatever it is, 3.8 or 3.5 acres of disturbance. So, suppose somebody wants to come in and, they've got one of the big lots and they start grading it more than that.
Well,
then
if they push it, then they would have to prepare a stormwater pollution prevention plan.
But that's all done at the county level, right? That's all done at the county level.
No, it'd be on the town level. The town would regulate it.
And what happens there, Barry, also, if you say, okay, I mean, right now you're at 3.6 to 3.8, and somebody, this hypothetical person does that, so now, and they're over, at this point, now you're over 5. So now, what do you do with the DEC, because they've decided?
Well, the provisions on the DEC are very flexible and quite often change even during construction. So the DEC would, stipulate, I mean, though they have no inspection role or anything, it would have to be controlled on the town level, really through the building department when somebody applies for a building permit. It just a site plan. We prepare the site plans showing the septic and everything anyway, so we would just add all the soil erosion and sediment control. And if somebody wanted to disturb a large area, which I really don't see that practical here, but if somebody did, it would be triggered then with that building permit. You could stop the building permit.
Barry, they would need to stop the building permit because they wouldn't be building in accordance with the approved plan.
Until they provided the proper plans.
So this gives back to the board on that.
Barry, can I ask a question on that?
Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah, sure.
So if I'm a little uncertain as to how that works. So we're going through and we're approving the entire subdivision for the 6 lots. So, and we have a certain amount of disturbance, and we approve that. If one of the landowners decides to go above and above, go overboard on that, does that change the entire subdivision, or how does that? Is that just that particular lot, Barry?
I would believe
this goes back.
Well, that's kind of that is a bit of a gray area in the regulations, but it would just be that lot.
So what we can do, Patrick, is within the design parameters that we have, we can, some of the stuff you can say you shall only you do X, Y, Z, or some would be you say wooded areas, we say that we don't want you to disturb wooded areas if you're going to put your house in the middle of the woods, and you really should only disturb for the driveway and the immediate area around the house, and obviously to put your septic and well in. So you could put that in, that this is a condition of approval. You can't force it, but you can, and you can say things like, this is exactly where the house has to go. You can basically, this is, a lot of these lots end up being highly conditioned as opposed to cut these 2 fields in half and put your house where you want it to go.
Total disturbance, are we talking about, if you have an estimate for that, Barry and Heather, at total build out?
3.5 acres.
Okay, thank you. I like
Barry,
that.
you keep dropping it. It started at 3.8 and then it was 3.6. Now it's 3.5. So
That's good.
I have a couple questions about that. First, is that 3.5 per lot or total of subdivision?
That's total, all the lots.
Okay. And another question I have, if the plan showing disturbance, should be some kind of dimension related to the house, how much, that's essentially what we discussed a moment ago. Should be some definite parameters rather than sketching in like in a picture. Essentially, there are no dimensions there. So one can interpret this way, another can interpret another way.
Dorian, the total area of the disturbance is depicted in one of the charts, which unfortunately, I don't know what page it's on, but that it shows the area of disturbance per lot. It doesn't show the dimensions of the disturbance because, as you can see, there's a lot of bends and turns, but it does show the total area per lot that is supposed to be disturbed.
And that
no, I'm talking about when disturbance shown on each of the lots. And there is a marking like a disturbance but there are no dimensions there. So I'm kind of wondering, you know.
Well, if you look at, so there's one of the graphics, and so if we're looking at the lot that is right there, you see the limited disturbance going around everything. So yes, it would be preferable to calculate, or to, what you would like to see, Zorian, is the calculation to that blob.
No, I just would like to see some dimension relative to the house, the disturbance.
Well, do you see those?
I don't know.
Brian, the map is drawn to scale. So if you use the scale of the map.
Yeah, I understand the
can I just
map to draw the scale, but I guarantee you who is going to use it, not going to measure the scale.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess my response to that is, so what? Like, the information is there. If someone, including you, is curious enough to know what those dimensions are, it's readily obtainable by using basic mathematical tools, which I know you possess. So, like, I guess I don't see the point of cluttering a diagram with lines showing the dimensions.
No, what he's saying, Sam, is different. He's saying, so it matters more if you go.
It's not for me.
Right.
Who's
for
it
the
for?
wooded lots. So now I go there and I buy lot number 5. And I don't know any of this. I don't calculate this. And I get somebody to build the house who's just Joe whatever guy building the house. And it says right here that there's your limited disturbance lines. And they ignore absolutely all of it. And they put the house there and they just cut a bunch of trees down. And now we no longer are really respecting the 3.6 acre limited disturbance, because somebody who went to build this house, who cannot read this, who does not use the scale, who does not do what you just said, disturbs.
But that gets to Barry's point, which is that's, I think, outside the purview of what we're doing here, because that's a question for the building department.
That's the building department. They look at all those things.
Enforcement of a permit. Like, we're approving a hypothetical situation of a subdivision, and even if we condition an approval on these home sites and these LOD lines, like, it's still not our responsibility to make sure that a future developer who's issued a building permit follows that. That's on the code enforcement, and all of those people are fully equipped to interpret these maps, which is the point that I was making.
This is Greg Bolmer. But if the planning board's concern is that they don't want to see someone come in and do that, what the planning board could do is place a condition on the plan. The limits of disturbance is shown, and it can't be exceeded by 30%. That way, it's 3.5 acres, 30%, that puts you at about 4.9 acres. If no one property owner can exceed the limits of disturbance area by 30%, it kind of keeps everybody in check, and it keeps the intent of the planning board present on the plans, which then gives guidance to the building department that says, yes, this is just a plan that shows an area of disturbance. It doesn't have to be exact, but the final limits of disturbance can't be exceeded for any one lot by 30%.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because
there's the beautiful answer.
Agree, because otherwise it's just a picture.
That's why you're the man, Greg.
That's the beautiful answer, boy.
I mean, what might be the a good balance too would be if we had the limit of disturbance calculated for each individual lot, which would also make doing what Greg is suggesting a little bit even easier.
It is shown.
It is. Okay, great.
It is on the plan because it's small, but it is shown on the grading and septic.
Right.
It is shown as the limits of disturbance for each lot.
So it sounds like we have complete agreement between all parties. That's great.
So I know you're way better at this than I am.
If you go up to the right on that plan 2, I think there's a table there that shows.
Exactly. So like vaguely, look, you can see, and here's our limited disturbance. You can go
But
around.
up in the top right-hand corner, I think there's a table there. I just can't seem to read it.
Yeah, it is there. There's
Oh.
one on each one of those pages.
Oh, I gotta
Oh, too far.
hold on. I'm getting rid of my squiggle. So this is in here, correct?
No, it's actually
No.
it's on the individual grading plans.
It's on sheet 2.
Sorry.
Oh,
Right underneath the septic details.
Right
should
there,
be a
stop,
little-
stop,
Right there.
stop,
What did they?
stop.
Sorry.
There we go.
Underneath septic details. There's another.
Those are
check.
trees.
No, there's a table there that says lot 4
Proposed disturbance. Says
areas.
Proposed disturbance 4, 5, and 6.
Oh,
How am I going? Proposed disturbance per, sorry, yes, you're totally, that's trees. Oh, I see. You have the trees and the thing all in the same. I thought it was just
Exactly. We're talking about what's going to be removed.
a tree table. So there's a tree table and a disturbance table.
Exactly. What's going to be
Bimodal
upset?
table. There we go. It's my fault. So so there you see lot 4. You got plus or minus 0.58. Lot 5, 0.5666. So it is shown there. And so if you say that, please reference the proposed lot disturbance. The applicant shall, or the developer shall not be able to go over more than 30% as a condition of approval to get building permit, yada yada. You put it in as a condition. Are we good there? Addressed. On the trees, if I was correct on this one, we punted and to larger trees because 8 inches was going to be excessive tree analysis, and we did get that. On the map, this is again like a final look before we circulate or do anything. On the very front map of the last one, we lost the map on the lots, but then we lost the streams. Then they came back again afterward.
I'm sorry, what?
So look at that. You see the little feeder stream? It's just the overlay hit.
Oh, I see. It's trapped under the hatching for the casting area. Yeah.
Everybody, we need to untrap because then it's fine here once it gets trapped. And we should have the 100-foot setback line, even though it's all safely within the conservation area. Just call it out on the map.
To the tributary as well, that's an unnamed stream, but you want the 100-foot buffer on the
No, on
tributary.
the Mumbacus, I think is just all we need.
Okay.
I mean, even if you did the tributary, it's everything's well away from it. So this is the conservation area boundary, et cetera, and this is a question for everybody of the board also. We do have narrative about what is intended for the conservation area boundary as far as restrictions on clearing development. We do have the letter RE deed restrictions. Do everybody want to look at that now, or do you want to look at it in preparation and see if you have any additions or comments for the next? We've had this for a bit. Board? Silence?
Are you talking about that letter from Mr. Collins?
Yep.
Bill Collier's letter. Maren, I would recommend that everybody look at that, but you don't finalize that until after we've started the public hearing process, because we don't know what the neighbors are gonna have to say.
So everybody should re-review it and see if they can think of a hole that's there, but wait until we finish the public hearing, and that will be, so we do have at least a good basis here for that. And then we can look and see this, and then we'll wait for the public hearing, et cetera. Then on, how does everybody feel about adding in which we are habitually asking everybody else, the forest or habitat? Some of this is on, lands that are not even being touched, but as long as on the big map to show the DEC habitat map or forest, matrix forest, et cetera, that you've done before, Heather. So we have it on them.
You have seen my comment on the other applications regarding GIS letters and the disclaimer on the website of the DEC mapper saying that it is a GIS layer and needs to be validated by a biologist, which we've done. So I'll put a pin in that for a discussion off board if you want.
And yeah, and Myron, I have to admit, I'm not sure where you are in the comments at this point.
All right.
I'm looking in our new comments, trying to find
Number 7, is it?
No, but it's number 2. It's not number 3 comment, your comments.
We can't see the numbers on what's on the screen, so that.
Well, then
but those are old. Those are old numbers.
Right.
Right.
I just issued a memo. I'm assuming you guys all have it.
I'm looking.
526, you mean?
The 526 is what Liz is referring.
Yes, I'm
Right,
looking.
but we're looking, I think, reply
All right, if you
513.
look- if everybody
to
looks at 520, if everybody looks at 526, that's C. Planning subdivision zoning comments. I'm on page 4 at the bottom. 4 of 8, and number 4 on page 4, under C. As per prior comments, the plans delineate a conservation area boundary, which appropriately concedes with steeply sloped wooded areas adjacent to the creek, which is a Class A trout stream, 100-year flood zone, and wetland areas. It is noticed the site includes Ulster County Habitat Corps lands and a principal aquifer. Add plan notation stating the intended protection measures. We've got that. That's what I was just talking about. But perhaps we should also show
Where's
on
this
this
note?
map, it's, the Habitat Corps, or if I go to this, there is our lot. I cannot get this really any bigger for you guys. This is showing the wetland areas. If we take,
Yeah, but there's nothing accurate at all to that mapping. That is just somebody with a magic marker saying, hey, we got something over here.
Yeah, and actually, I'm not really looking. I'm mostly looking for a note that specifically says what are the intended protection measures, like a
Right.
descriptive note.
Yeah, we agree to do that.
Okay. I
That's
thought so.
something.
Yeah, I don't know that you need more layers because.
moving on. We have this has been covered, so everybody will read it, and as Mary Lou said, we'll wait and see what the public has to say for deed restrictions, easements, protections. We won't be able to see any of the plan when we have everything written on it. Done, 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 done. As I said, I guess look through Barry and Heather, the latest comments, just to make sure all numbers true up as.
Right, that's just cleaning up the numbers. So
Yeah,
this
what
whole,
I'm saying, this is the partial response of is cleaning up. That's why I said my comment is fix all the numbers so they all true up.
right, and we agree.
Addressed. This one is a offline discussion. This is the stormwater review that you guys really need to, I think, take offline.
Yep.
Because I don't even know what a broad crested where
So-
is
Yeah, this is one of the things I want to discuss with Greg about. That should be provided when they apply for their building permit and they come up with a soil erosion sediment control plan.
All right,
There could be some variations then.
Maybe we need a bit more. Maybe we need to decide in your discussion with Greg how we word the conditions. So you have a discussion with Greg and come to a conclusion, then he can tell us how we appropriately word this. So when you go to the building department, this is all taken into consideration because the building department needs to be spoon-fed exactly what to look for. They're not exactly overstaffed in the town of Rochester in the building department. So if you guys do a little pre-circle, Barry, and then Greg and Liz can help us with the way we write it up so this is all taken care of.
And
Okay.
I would just really strongly urge that as much be, you know, that kind of guidance, those conditions should somehow show up on the plans so that the building inspector, when somebody goes in for a building permit, just needs to pull out a set of plans and look at that, and not have to look for other documents. That's all.
That's,
Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree. So that's what you guys have to work it out so we can get the proper verbiage, and that'll be, you know, page number 700 on the site plan packet so people know what to do with their broad crested. I want one of those actually. Can I have a broad crested ware? Sounds like a really nice bird or something.
That's what I thought.
You know?
Red breast and little
Exactly.
yellow.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have seen the broad crested ware coming across. It is so rare.
Yeah, you only wear those at formal gatherings, though.
Exactly.
you go.
Exactly. Oh, I'm putting my broad crested on today. And then we get to the last two that are we can probably go to your are having to do with the EAF. So we're pretty sufficiently dialed in here. If I go to I've got so many subcategories in this.
Maren, is the Dropbox available to the public to view these documents, or is it just the?
No, it's just the planning board because it's too much foilable type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So the answer is no.
I wonder, I know in other communities, sometimes before a hearing, there's a way to post like the latest project materials so that the public can look at it. I don't know if there's a way to create like a single PDF that somebody could just click on and open.
There's
It's just a
definitely ways they could do that. And when we become so overstaffed, maybe we'll be able to do some of those things. But right now, volunteer Marin is not volunteer unless somebody else on the planning board would like to raise their hand right now to be the person that spends their time doing that.
Not suggesting that.
Oh, wait a minute. I hear everybody volunteering.
And Heather, what this Google Drive is used to be paper that was given to everybody and they'd come pick up their files. So it's the equivalent of the files that we used to have, and we're being kind to the environment by not making, 7,000 maps and
Right.
everything.
And
At the same time, it's a private link, so I should not share it with anyone. It's just between the applicant and the planning board at this point, unless you post a private link.
Oh, no, that all that stuff's supposed to be public, available.
That's what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be publicly available. People can put in FOIL requests or say we want to come see it, and we can send them things.
Right.
But I think that what you're looking at is intra-agency things are in there. There'll be letters from me. There'll be, things that aren't for the public. So that's why it can't just be a general open to everyone. But yeah, if people want to see things, they can FOIL them or request to see them. That's fine.
So the idea being nobody will see any of it. Once we're back meeting in person, if that ever happens in life, nobody will know this exists. This is an internal, this is, as Mary Lou said, the equivalent of the folder of all the stuff that you gave us and whatever. And these are all the folders that everybody used to sit with. And so when we're in person, everybody in the planning board will look at this, but it won't be shared with everybody else. We'll be back to everybody sitting with their maps in front at the table kind of idea. But you are right. for an individual application, the degree of what could get posted, this is where we have an awkwardness, because before, everything would be on a table there, and anybody in the public could come and look at but we don't have a electronic table on our website for that kind of stuff, Heather, because we're mind-bogglingly understaffed. There's nobody to do it.
And that's why we do the share screen at these meetings.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's the equivalent of the tables, just
It's
a
our
very,
table,
it's
exactly.
a small table.
It's a table with very small print that you can barely see. So you've got some more stuff to do there. How does the board feel that? So now we go to the seeker idea. Liz and I spoke. Let me find my. Latest. I'll make that bigger, but with some fixing of, some of the true ups, there's still some bigger outstanding items, but they start to become more, Liz and Greg, I don't know what you think, more like conditionality down after we've heard public hearing and, and decisions the board will have to make at that point as to, yes, I want a fully paved driveway or I don't, and yes, I want this or no, I don't. But those don't really need to be decided for seeker. And this is Mary Lou, why I made you drag yourself on your deathbed to be here. Is this an unless?
Look like you're on your deathbed, Mary. Where are you?
No, but that's because I slept the day away because I was on my deathbed this morning.
Is this a unlisted coordinated or unlisted uncoordinated? And we just send for comment to everybody.
Yeah, well, Liz and Greg, did you come up with anything that would make this a type 1? I
No,
didn't. Okay.
it's not type 1. Yeah,
So
I
it's
agree.
unlisted, and whether you coordinate review or have uncoordinated review is really up to you. All we have is the health department. The health department can do their own darn review. This isn't something where we have a whole lot of agencies that have permitting authority or funding authority. So I think it would be appropriate to do an uncoordinated review on this.
I sort of would agree, since there has been quite a bit of back and forth with the health department. But I would say then we would send it. So anybody else have an opinion there? Liz, Greg, illustrious planning board.
Yeah, I mean, you may want to send it to other agencies, but I wouldn't say for seeker review. You may have questions for other agencies, but when you send it to other agencies, it's under a coordinated review. It's people
exactly.
who have permitting authority.
Right. I would like to send it to other agencies. Well, some of them you'd like to send it to don't even have permitting that I thought of, like
Right.
DEC doesn't have a permit. They're not doing any disturbance.
DEC and the fire department. I'd love them to weigh in on the driveways and getting a fire truck up them, But
that's kind of like a referral for comment,
That's
right?
it, right. Referral for comment.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not really a seeker matter.
Right. Or referral for commentary, then and would you advise doing that at the same time, Mary Lou, refer for commentary? I can't say that. At the same time that we
refer to Ulster County Planning Board?
Exactly. We have Ulster County Planning Board. You'd have the Department of Health, Ag and Markets, DEC that I thought of, the Highway Department, even though they are familiar with it, refer it, RECC, and Accord Fire Department. Can you think of anybody?
Why Ag and Markets? Do we have anything that would trigger Ag and Markets? Are we in an Ag district?
Yeah, you're in an Ag district.
An Ag district.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not currently farmed, but yes.
No.
Right, but it's in the district. Gotcha.
Yeah, and they did hay. I mean, I don't know if they're doing it right now, but they were haying for quite some time. So.
Okay.
So I will make this I will make a motion to type this as an unlisted, uncoordinated seeker action. Do I have a
I'll
second?
make the motion to make it unlisted, uncoordinated seeker.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
And that's a roll call vote.
Hello.
Okay.
So I have Chair Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jones is not here. Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
Ms. Maloney,
Yes.
and Mr. Grasso.
Yes.
Me, I say yes too. Sam.
I missed Sam? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Mr.
No,
Zarowski,
no offense taken.
sorry about that. Okay.
And then I would like to make another motion. Well, this is my question, because there's things to clean up on this. Do you think CPL, Mendenbach and Eggers, you guys would have enough time to clean this all up and get it?
I have a suggestion.
What? Yes.
I think what you already have submitted should be fine to submit, referral to Ulster County Planning Board, refer for comments to other agencies. What I would suggest is sometime between now and the public hearing that Mendenbach and Eggers try to do another another submittal to address some of these comments so that we can bring the number of conditions down. That would be my suggestion, but I think the plans and materials you have right now are fine.
Perfect. Then I would make another motion to submit for comment to DEC, Ag and Markets, UC, Ulster County Planning Department, Ulster County Department of Health, Highway Department, our ECC, and the Fire Department. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
And that is not a roll call vote, correct, Mary Lou? That's just a.
Correct. But if you want to just make sure, because we're on the Zoom call, we tend to do roll call votes just so it's clear for the record.
Let's roll call it, because everybody's breaking up too.
Okay. Chair Lindstrom,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
Ms. Maloney,
Yes.
and Mr. Grasso.
Yes.
And Rick Jones is absent.
And there are a couple, I would like the board to be able to review, and typically we do for subdivision seeker. It has to be done before the public hearing, but we've typically been doing it right before, so that way the public can also hear what we're doing with seeker. There are a couple elements. We have a draft part 2 response here that shows smaller possible moderate impacts, and some that I'd sort of prefer to have the board have a chance to be able to look through this. And there's a couple questions that Liz has for Mendenbach and Eggers still left on this. And once again, it's a site disturbance grading type of issue that we let everybody have a chance to look at this, digest it, and go through this at the next meeting. I also would say we probably could get this off of workshop criteria and get it onto the regular July meeting, because you want to have your public hearing. We've set a precedent a long time ago, no public hearings at workshops, because that confuses people too much. So would everybody feel okay setting this for public hearing for the July regularly scheduled meeting?
Yes.
And do seeker then also beforehand?
I'm good with that.
Okay, so I will make a motion to set this for a public hearing for what is our July 12th regularly scheduled planning board meeting. Do I have a second?
You do.
And let's roll call it.
So Chair Lindstrom, Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Jones, absent, Mr. Pinsky,
Here.
Miss Maloney,
Yes.
and Mr. Grasso.
Yes.
All right, so we have a plan there. We have a plan with Barry, Greg, and Liz will tie up some of the stuff like, oh, wait, our broad crested wires.
And so we're clear on the timeline.
Bring me one at the next meeting. I want a broad crested wear. It'll be in person, I believe, at that point, so we can all wear our broad crested wears. And
What would the submittal date be for that?
the submittal date cutoff, I might get the date slightly wrong. They're on the town website,
Okay.
but that's going to be, I believe, the 28th of June.
Okay.
That's the 2 weeks, the 28th of June, exactly before 3:30. All right, so we are set. Barry, Heather, do you have anything else, or we have a plan?
No, I want to thank you all very much.
Okay. And so you guys can get off. Planning board, can you guys stay on for 2 seconds?
And I think, are you done with Greg and I?
Just one question. You're going to do the part 2 before the public hearing that night?
You have to. And we will do it that night, so that we like to do it that night because that way the public can hear it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Night, Barry and Heather.
Yes, Liz, Greg, thank you very much.
Greg.
Good night, everybody. Great work.
Everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
And the only thing that I had is, after that, everybody, is I'm not going to be here for the June meeting. So that means you got to do your homework better.
That sounds fine.
Can you go there to Office Depot and do it or something like that?
And what?
He wants you to go to
find
Office Depot and
Office
log
Depot
in.
or something like that that has a
Go to Office Depot and do whatever you
computer?
want. I am not here for the meeting. You will have to prepare.
No, I'm
and
talking
do
about
your
you.
homework yourselves.
He's
I'll
saying for
be in
you to
charge,
go to
Lorian.
Office Depot, Maureen.
I'm going to repeat again. Hold on. You are going to have to prepare and do yourself.
That's a big no, Zorian.
Dorian,
I got it.
my billable rate for those types of things is $375 per hour. So if you would like me to go to Office Depot, that includes transport, and I also will bill for gas.
Mileage, yeah.
And mileage, okay. So
Maureen, are you absent for the June meeting or the July meeting?
June meeting.
June, so that's like next week.
That's like 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Maren, you got to get that rate up. You're a little low on that rate.
Office Depot rate. Oh, if I'm doing really complex stuff, it's higher. But just the Office Depot run for Xeroxing, I can come in there.
Yeah.
So Sam, you and I should go through. We have a lot of people who didn't get stuff in, which is really good news.
We can schedule, you and I can schedule a time offline. When are you leaving town? Well, I'll send you an email.
Yeah, I'm leaving I'm going in the middle of the desert where there's absolutely no one can get in, no phones, no anything. So I don't have to think about zoning.
No Office Depot.
And no Office Depot, exactly. So Dorian can get it because Xerox themselves. I'm leaving, we have this week and all next week. I'm leaving next, Saturday, is the 12th?
Cool. Yeah, I'll email you. We'll schedule a time.
Perfect. And I'm meeting with Alyssa tomorrow to make sure everything has come in, is all organized, is
great.
Because right now it's a real hairball. We have.
And Mark, can I just request that we get the agenda out just another day or two ahead of time so that we can have our time to do homework?
You don't need the agenda because if you go into, I'm not going to do this for you guys. You're being lazy. If you go in here, planning board, look at this.
Yep.
If it's sitting here,
Zoom
you're
in.
On the
on.
agenda.
your odds are 99.9% that those are going to be on the agenda.
Okay, perfect.
If it's in completed, it's done. I'm helpful. If it's in pending, you can look at the pending. And these are guys you'll see that have come before, but they didn't get their information in or they fell off the radar. So you'll see sometimes things that are have an out with a name, and if they disappear, you'll find them. So if we look at this, we had the court rights come. Remember, they were going to do a 1-lot subdivision, and we'd asked for some sight lines and some other stuff on the map, but we haven't gotten anything. So they're there in pending until they come back with the stuff. So all of these are, we've either partially reviewed them, a lot reviewed them, maybe not reviewed them. Like the Stonehouse Tavern, she came, or she didn't even get to us because the whole thing was a mess. And she hired Peak Engineering, which is working through the whole thing, but they have an application in. So that's in there with absolutely nothing. You haven't seen it. So you can see what's sort of lurking. This is like your on deck gang, but anything that you can see here. So it'll be Ross subdivision, which is really a lot line. That'll be easy. Scully, he's pretty much got everything in. Streamside is now a lot line. A brand new one for I can't say their name, Wahal Bhattacharya, that want to do everything possible on their land. Innes is still, everybody remembers. Rock Mountain Farms is a 2-lot subdivision. Algerville Firehouse, everybody knows that's the lot line. On that, so you know, those plans haven't even been signed because there was a condition number 6. Once again, read that said that we had to have proof that the Ulster County had deeded over fully the lands. And so Mike had to look it up. And the only way that all gets finished is by doing the lot line. So all of that voting was somewhat for naught because the site plans are saying they're waiting for the lot line to be done at next June. At the June meeting, and Sam and I can go through. I'll have pretty much anything that needs to be written up. There, you just got the cliff notes of it.
Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest version there, exactly. Any other questions, guys?
No, thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Point of order, we don't have to vote on motions to adjourn.
Of course not. Of course. We do it
Yeah,
anyway.
but it feels so good to hear
Let's just say it
everybody.
anyway.
I'm leaving.
It feels good to hear everybody say, yes, I want to go.
Enjoy your
Aye.
trip, Maren. Have
All
fun.
right, thanks,
Okay,
guys.
have a good vacation.
Bye.
right.
Enjoy your vacation. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Thank you, Mary Lou, for getting on.
Bye.
Go back to bed.